Hey everyone, it's Naomi Wolf here, and it's a really exciting day because I have a good friend, Shahid Buttar, here at Civic Hall, but it's also a very newsworthy person who's visiting us here because Shahid is running to challenge Nancy Pelosi. Welcome, Shahid, to DailyClout.
Thanks so much for having me, Naomi.
So this is quite an amazing kind of thing you're doing, taking on such a gigantic, entrenched politician. Tell us about it.
You know, my goals in this race are to challenge the corporate corruption of Washington, to fight for the rights of San Franciscans, to champion, among other things, Medicare for all, affordable housing, to promote the rights of people to be free, for instance, from warrantless surveillance by the NSA, the FBI, and the DEA.
So I should jump in and say this is how I actually met Shahid. He's a constitutional lawyer, and when I was working on issues for the end of America and looking at illegal surveillance, warrantless wiretapping, rights and privacy issues, Shahid was the pioneer kind of champion of those issues, who way ahead of the curve before other people cared about these things was really at the forefront of challenging the Bush administration at that time, and then the Obama administration. He actually has been consistent. And then you were a community organizer at the Electronic Frontier Foundation, is that correct, in San Francisco?
Yeah, for 3 years I worked at EFF, the Electronic Frontier Foundation, building a grassroots network for that organization to help support the digital rights community and fight for principles from net neutrality to privacy in the face of massive.
And net neutrality has come back again for us to fight.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, and I think it's another example of a digital freedom issue that Americans across all stripes recognize. You know, whether you're libertarian, whether you're liberal, whether you're progressive, whether you're socialist, I think Americans, certainly San Franciscans, recognize the importance of an open internet and the importance, for instance, of checks and balances on government surveillance.
So if you get elected to Congress, digital rights issues or electronic rights issues, one of the things that you're going to be fighting for?
Absolutely, yeah. I'm interested in defending the rights of Americans against all of those threats that present themselves, whether it's corporate threats, whether it's government threats. I think increasingly the combination of the two has become problematic.
So what's an example of that you see right now that we should look at?
The corporate healthcare system. You know, Medicare for all is a reform that makes so much sense from any perspective. It makes sense if you're concerned about healthcare as a human right. It makes sense if you're concerned about efficiency in healthcare. It makes sense if you're concerned about removing fat from the system and delivering health outcomes to the public more efficiently. And even if you're concerned about homelessness, you know, healthcare costs are one of the leading driving causes of homelessness in the United States. And if we had single-payer healthcare, American businesses would be more competitive abroad.
So can I just restate what I understand?
Please.
You said that there are, 3 or 4 things at the top of your platform.
Yeah.
One of them is, you say, digital rights. And for people who don't really know what that term means, like me, you're talking about fighting against encroachments on our privacy, fighting against government surveillance, insisting that the government get a warrant before they listen to our communications. Is that what you're talking about?
Those things, and investigating the national security agencies that have never been subjected to transparency in the last 2 generations. But absolutely, fighting for a warrant requirement.
Wow, you're starting with the easy stuff.
This corruption in Washington is the defining issue across these different issue spheres.
So, and then the second thing we talked about, you're a big believer in healthcare for all, single payer, Medicare for all.
Right.
And that's, you say that that's one real distinction for you with Nancy Pelosi. She, you think, is in favor of corporatized healthcare and supporting insurers. Is that correct?
That's absolutely true.
To say?
Yeah.
Tell us more about that.
With Pelosi's position with respect to healthcare?
Well, like why you're fighting her on these 2 issues.
Yeah, well, there are certainly others. I think the biggest picture issue, if you were to contrast me and the incumbent, there's never been a military funding request that Nancy Pelosi has not liked, and I'm in this to try to recover those funds for vital social services.
Wow.
So
are you saying that a woman who represents San Francisco supports military funding?
I could list off almost half a dozen votes, including voting for funding for wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, wars in Iraq particularly, that I and thousands of San Franciscans have taken action to try to stop. I've been arrested trying to stop the war in Iraq 15 years ago. I was arrested 3 years ago asking questions of Obama-era national security officials about the national security, particularly mass surveillance programs that they lied to the Senate about. These are questions that no member of Congress has asked, including House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi.
Why do you think she's so soft in your view on war and military stance?
Ultimately, Nancy Pelosi represents Washington and the Washington establishment more than San Francisco, and I think that's where her inclination to toe the line of the Washington institutions has come. Ultimately, the corruption of Washington is a bipartisan affair, and Democrats are, for better or I dare say much worse, unfortunately, as much a part of it as Republicans.
Right. Wow. So this is so interesting to me because Nancy Pelosi is, such an establishment figure. She's been reelected for 30 years.
Right.
She's, the whip, right? And she's sort of unassailable. And you are a pioneer of all kinds, and you're also not a household name. You're the child of Pakistani immigrants. You don't have gazillions behind you from special interests. And here you are a week after announcing your candidacy to take on Nancy Pelosi in November.
Yeah.
Tell us your story, Shahid, and also why you, in the middle of a life where you have a lot of fun things that you're doing, why you decided to throw your hat in the ring and take on this gigantic, powerful establishment figure.
I'm running for Congress because San Francisco needs someone to represent our city's unique values in Washington. And the person who's had the job for the last 30 years isn't minding that responsibility.
I guess what I'm trying to say is, you have a very cool job as director of grassroots organizing BFF.
Yeah.
You live in a fabulous part of San Francisco. All of San Francisco is fabulous. You're a very cool guy. You've got lots of friends. I'm sure you have a wonderful lifestyle. I just want to know what led you to this moment. What led you to think, Shahid Buttar, have to challenge this woman right now?
It was a month ago in the House when, with Nancy Pelosi's support, Congress extended and expanded the surveillance powers available to the Trump administration.
So the government's ability to spy on us, our communications, our phone calls, our emails, is that correct?
All those things, but more. I'm talking about the ability of the Trump administration to suppress dissent in the United States was something that Nancy Pelosi facilitated.
What do you mean their ability to suppress dissent?
So mass surveillance, the reason that we're concerned about it, aside from just the abstract harm to privacy, is that surveillance in the United States has always been used to undermine dissent, as much as it has been used to protect supposedly national security. Behind the walls of secrecy that have protected these programs from public oversight, there have always been abuses. That's been true since the very beginnings of surveillance when the FBI was founded 100 years ago.
That's true.
And that's ultimately what concerns me. My family immigrated twice to be free. And I don't take freedom lightly. I understand particularly what it means in a digital age, and recognizing the co-optation of the internet as a tool for government surveillance, and recognizing the incumbent's role in protecting that apparatus and preventing reform efforts. I could not stand by and watch from the sidelines my city be misrepresented in so fundamentally disturbing a way. And I see this beyond just mass surveillance. Nancy Pelosi was read into CIA torture as a leading member of the House and turned the other way, did nothing about it.
That is a dark moment in her career.
San Francisco, absolutely. And San Francisco doesn't need to be represented by someone who's going to turn the other way in the face of these abuses of human rights, of civil rights, of core constitutional rights. And I am a fighter who has defended those values for over a decade, and I did that without a seat in Congress. And if my city were to send me to Washington to represent it, I could do a lot more.
Gotcha. Well, that's definitely a call to arms for someone with your long record of, I'm trying not to make this a puff piece. The fact is I really do respect Shahid. I'll reach out, of course, to Nancy Pelosi's office and, ask her to sit here with us, and we'll go to her, in D.C. or in San Francisco and hear why she thinks you suck, or whatever.
I'd love to hear her views. Yeah.
But, or why she thinks she's the best person to represent San Francisco, or specifically, I'd love to ask her why she voted to extend the government's ability to violate our Fourth Amendment rights to privacy, our constitutional rights to privacy. That is a very good question. Why do you think she supported that statute.
I think ultimately, as the House Minority Leader, Nancy Pelosi, unfortunately, is much more concerned with the Washington establishment than she is with the rights of her constituents.
But why would the Washington establishment need more and more powers to listen to us? No, I really want to know what you think. You're in the weeds with this thing. Their powers to read my email while I'm composing it are growing and growing. What the hell? Whom does she serve? How does it serve her? Representing such a liberal district, such a progressive area, part of the country as San Francisco, why would she send this? Why wouldn't she know that someone would say this is outrageous for someone representing San Francisco?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of money in mass surveillance, and a lot of corporations make money in mass surveillance, and there's an industrial complex aside from the assault on the rights that is very beguiling to people who are willing to chase corporate dollars and support.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a great answer. Let's move on to other things that are in your platform. Well, actually, let me, before I do that, go back to you.
Sure.
So you were born in Pakistan, in England.
Yeah, I was born in the UK.
Your parents are from Pakistan.
That's right.
Your dad was a lawyer.
That's right.
And your mom was a school teacher.
That's right.
She's passed on.
Yeah, she's not with us anymore, unfortunately.
And then your parents moved to London.
Right.
And you were born in London?
Yeah, 1974, and then we came to the States in
you can't be
76.
president.
It's not my interest. I'm not running for office to pursue a political aspiration. I'm running for office to relieve my city's political frustration.
I understand. That's a great response. Okay,
but you're right. Yes, I'm not interested in serving
as president.
Yeah.
There could be a Shahid Buttar movement. I guess it's right there. But it does seem crazy talking to someone like you who may actually, win a seat in Congress that our rules say that you can never be president. That's another subject, but that does seem quite pointless in a nation of immigrants to rule out so much talent.
I feel this way about the Bill of Rights. The idea that we have commitments to rights that then we serially offend over and over and over again. So I'm more concerned if there are parts of the Constitution that we were worried about. I would like to just see us stand by the First Amendment and the Fourth Amendment and let them mean something, rather than steamroll them in practice. At the whims and behest of secret agencies.
Well said, Shahid. So now you were born in London, and then your parents, you said, felt that their kids. You have 2 brothers and a sister. You're the youngest of 4. You said that they felt that there was going to be discrimination against Southeast Asians, which there is at the time you were born in England, and so they moved to America. And you guys settled in rural Missouri, which I was surprised when I first met you to learn that you grew up in Rosebud, Missouri.
Rosebud, Missouri, a town of 300 people. The closest stoplight was 20 miles away.
Amazing.
And our driveway opened onto a state highway.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. The town had 2 last names, and then us. And it was the Waymeyers and the Pullmans, and then the Buttars. And
really?
Yeah, people took us in. It was actually an incredible story of Middle America opening its arms to
so nice.
Immigrants. This was pre-9/11, mind you. And so I really woke up one day in law school, and my racial identity had dramatically shifted because of current events.
You didn't know you were a scary minority.
Yeah, it wasn't. I was a model minority until one day in 2001 when all of a sudden people started looking at me crazy whenever I walked into an airport and tried to take a flight somewhere.
That must have been so shocking.
It just revealed to me the experience of people of color in the United States going back for centuries.
Right. So you grew up being warmly welcomed by Middle America in rural Missouri. Is that correct?
Yeah, I was a Boy Scout. Our neighbors were Uncle Cleo and Auntie Marion. I was 9 before I realized that we weren't actually blood related to them. I had this epiphany about race and relationship. Yeah.
Right. That's a very sweet American story.
Yeah.
And then you went on to be an undergraduate at the University of Chicago.
Yep.
And you told me another very interesting thing about your background, which is because of economic reversals when you were a freshman in college, you had to drop out of school.
My family lost our house the year that I started college, 1991. I was 16. I just turned 17, actually, as I was starting college at the University of Chicago. We lost our house that spring.
Sorry.
Appreciate that. The ensuing struggle, though, really gave me character. It's where I learned my work ethic. I would not be the person I am today if I didn't have that experience. But I definitely...
So sadly losing, so many people have been foreclosed on. So many people listening to this, struggle paycheck to paycheck. Talk, Shahid, about what kinds of jobs you did at that time when your family lost all their home.
So for about 3-4 years in Chicago in the early 90s, I was pretty down and out. There was a point when I was working at a cafe. I was selling auto insurance on the phone. I was temping in different agencies. I actually had a chance to build one of the first customer relations management systems back before the term had been coined. And then because I was a temp, I was fired the day that we finished the development process.
And you were paid $10 an hour while you were developing.
Yeah.
So what did those experiences teach you about, when you say you want to represent San Francisco as a member of Congress, what did those experiences teach you about the struggles of ordinary people? I mean, San Francisco is in some ways a rich city, but it's also one riven with class conflicts right
Absolutely.
now. The wealthy tech people taking over, the middle class people being squeezed out of housing. What did those experiences teach you about what ordinary people go through and what you're going to do for people in San Francisco?
My struggle in the 90s in Chicago, which traversed 10 years and 2 careers to try to keep 5 academic institutions to get my degree, it taught me what life is like as a working person, and it solidified my identity.
What is life like as a working person?
It is a struggle. It is the nearest thing to impossible, quite frankly. And I understand why people like Nancy Pelosi, who are wealthy, might not understand what that struggle is like. I come from working class people. I am a working class public interest advocate even now. I went to Stanford Law School, but I walked away from the career that would have translated that into a financial portion.
I actually think you have a shot. San Francisco being what it is. I was saying earlier that, I grew up in San Francisco. It's a city that I love dearly, and I worry about it. And historically, I'm thinking about Harvey Milk.
Yep.
San Francisco does have a soft spot for people that it sees as underdogs who represent its unique values. So what are some concrete things you're going to do for San Francisco if you're elected? That's one question, and the follow-up question is, what do you need from people watching this in order to be elected? So,
great. Some of the things I'll do for San Francisco include fighting for affordable housing block grants in HUD.
What's a block grant? What's HUD?
So the Housing and Urban Development Agency in Washington has resources available that can go to state and local governments to incentivize affordable housing construction by property developers. And I know some places in the federal budget where that can be made available, particularly in fraudulent and wasteful military spending. I'll get to that in a second.
So you're going to cut fraudulent and wasteful military spending to free up more money for affordable housing in San Francisco.
Yeah, affordable housing and Medicare for all.
Hey everyone, sorry we've changed our position a bit. This tech mogul had to charge my computer. But we're picking up again with Shahid Buttar. So Shahid, go ahead. We were asking concretely, what will you do for San Francisco when or if you're elected?
Yeah.
And we talked about affordable housing. Go ahead.
Yeah, Medicare for all is a big issue in San Francisco and around the country.
That.
The opportunity for people to see a doctor. Recognizing that healthcare is a human right, and we have the resources for it. Medicare for all would also be more efficient, vastly so, by leveraging the economy of scale and government purchasing power. It would make American businesses more competitive, and it would address a leading cause of homelessness.
Right.
There's no reason that we shouldn't provide health care to all of our citizens. I would pioneer those reforms in Congress.
And you said Nancy Pelosi is not in favor of single-payer health care for all.
No, she's been an active impediment to the movement to secure health care as a human right in the United States, and she defends corporate health care. She defends corporate a lot of things, and I'm much more interested in San Franciscans and the resources and services available to us. In addition to Medicare for all, we talked about affordable housing. I plan to work to end the failed and racist war on drugs.
Nice.
To begin dismantling the prison industrial slavery complex.
Oh, wow.
In California, we have legal cannabis.
You want to call it the prison industrial slavery complex?
That's exactly what it is. Have you read the text of the 13th Amendment recently?
No.
Slavery remains legal in the United States as long as it is a condition of punishment.
Good God.
It is scandalous, and people don't realize there are more slaves, and I mean to say the word slaves, in the United States today than there were at the height of slavery as an institution. We just changed it from the plantation to the prison.
Oh my God, these are very strong words, but I'm listening.
I'll stand by them.
Okay.
And I'll point to any number of other people who said it. I mean, this is the experience of communities of color in the United States today, is the creation of a racial caste system through the drug war. Michelle Alexander's book, The New Jim Crow, Ava DuVernay's documentary, 13th, make really clear how there is an active humanitarian crisis unfolding across the United States. And while we do have legal cannabis in California, the war on drugs continues to chew up families and communities across the country. And I would say that it is as corrupt as is the mass surveillance industrial complex.
Gotcha.
And it's also driven by corporate interests in the very same way.
Yes, that's certainly true, and Michelle Alexander's book really confirmed that. If you haven't read it, run out and read it. But how will you address the war on drugs as a member of Congress representing San Francisco?
So straightforward. The Controlled Substances Act of 1974 includes cannabis on Schedule 1. Oh, yes. There's no defensible reason for that. It is not a flight of legislative fancy to simply reclassify cannabis under the Controlled Substances Act such that it's no longer under Schedule 1. That's not even very difficult to effectuate politically because it's a transpartisan issue.
Right, and there are more and more states that are legalizing cannabis as well.
Civil liberties, as well as drug policy, as well as some of the issues surrounding political process reform are ones on which members of Congress and members of the public across the political spectrum will find in our platform a great deal to agree with. Because while I am an unabashed progressive, many of my concerns resonate across the political spectrum. Privacy is one of them. Yeah. Corporate corruption in Washington is one of them. The drug war that constrains individual liberty and is driving a new slavery system is one of them.
Affordable housing goes across party lines.
Absolutely.
You know, I'm really glad to hear you say this, Shahid, because so many people on the left only talk to the left. And it's a frustration of mine always, listening to people with great ideas on the left, you know, use language that just alienates everyone else or doesn't include everyone else. And I also have found, you know, in my travels for the end of America and Give Me Liberty, that some of the most passionate supporters of the issues that you've been fighting most of your career for, like freedom from electronic surveillance, Fourth Amendment rights, they're libertarian or conservative, and they are just patriots, and they just believe in, you know, the founders' values.
Totally.
There's no reason these values shouldn't unite us rather than divide us. What would you say to that?
I'm absolutely with you. There's a young representative from Michigan, Justin Amash, who's been one of the leading lights on challenging mass surveillance, right?
Right.
And why is it the case that Michigan is represented by a representative who will defend the rights of their constituents, but San Francisco is not? It is preposterous.
That is a great question.
That the Democrat representing America's most progressive city can't show up to vote for immigrants, can't show up to vote for limits on government surveillance, can't show up to vote for health care as a human right. We should be absolutely outraged by these things. I am, and that's why I'm running for Congress, to give my city an alternative.
Fantastic. Well, we're almost out of time, so I'm going to ask you, you know, it's kind of amazing to see you. You've got one friend here for moral support as opposed to the, you know, huge motorcades. I'm just stressing the grassroots nature of your campaign and your candidacy. You don't have special interests vying to knock down your door and write you checks. So I guess I'm just impressed and inspired. You know, we're nonpartisan, but any of you across the political spectrum, if you're looking at, you know, things you want to change or values you want to protect, and you're thinking, no one's out there doing it for me. Look at Shahid. He just started running, right? He just did it. He just decided to do it. And he's literally doing it, you know, mobilizing his networks. And with the internet, that's not impossible. And with our guidance here on DailyClout, it's very, very possible. So you have just the mechanics of running. You have a campaign manager.
Yep.
You have a lawyer who makes sure that you're not breaking FEC law.
Got a treasurer who
helps you raise money and the accounting, and so I'm glad that you've got all of that. And you've got an army of volunteers across the country from all walks of life. You said, and so what if people are listening to this, especially San Franciscans, and they think, you know, maybe they know of your work, but you know what? Maybe they've never heard of Shahid Buttar, but they've seen this, and they want to help you or find out more. Where can they go, and how can they help, and how can they contribute?
Thanks for asking. You can check out our campaign at www.shahidforchange.us. We also have campaign pages on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Sign up to volunteer.
Would they find it with Shahid Buttar?
Shahid for Change. Shahid for Change is how the campaign's denominated on each of those platforms. And we've got a ton of volunteer opportunities. We'll be doing events in San Francisco.
How do people want to volunteer find out how they can volunteer?
Yeah, shahidforchange.us. Sign up to volunteer there, and we will get you an email with a whole range of opportunities.
What if they want to send you money or raise money for you? How would they do that?
Shahidforchange.us. You can donate online. Share our campaign on social media, please, if you're inspired by the opportunities to fight the failed and racist war on drugs, to fight the military-industrial complex, to champion constitutional rights and defend transpartisan values. please share our campaign.
So exciting. So you know how to volunteer for Shahid if you like what he has to say. You know how to find Nancy Pelosi to volunteer for her if you don't like what he has to say. And if you like, business as usual in San Francisco. San Francisco, pay attention. Here's a candidate. There are others. But this is, very exciting to see that the process is not locked up. And Shahid, I personally feel inspired. I think it's very cool that as a citizen, instead of watching and yelling at the TV or at your computer screen, you're out there and you've thrown your hat in the ring. Thank you for helping us spread the word, announcing your candidacy on DailyClout to our audience.
Thank you, sister. I appreciate it. It's always great to be with you, and it's an honor to have a chance to share ideas with your folks.
All right. Take care.